Hey, we just got done taking the first flight with the DJI Avata, and when I come back, I'm going to tell you what I liked and disliked right after this. Hey, welcome back. Hey, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe below, and if you like this video, when you get to the end, hit the like button for us. We really appreciate it. Wow, what an experience this little DJI Avata was. I haven't flown FPV drones in my whole career of flying drones, and I've flown drones for many years. And this thing was easy to fly, especially for a beginner when it comes to FPV. I could fly through interior, buildings, under trees. As you see in this footage in the park, there was a 10-mile-an-hour wind with 15-mile-an-hour gusts. We had no problem with stability. The speed of it is incredible. There are definitely some things I didn't like about it, but overall, wow, what an experience. It was definitely worth the purchase. I want to get to some of the cons. The SD card on this thing is located inside the propeller guard right here. I'm going to open up this little door, and you can see right here, you have to open that between the propeller, and then you got to try to figure out how to get the card out. My thing is I've been using a small flathead screwdriver, and I just kind of slide it out. You don't put pressure on it, but I just open it up and then I slide the card out like that. It's not a hidden card, so it's easier to get out than some, but it's very difficult to get into this area right here. The other thing I was gonna say is this camera cage. So the camera cage, and you'll see it in this footage right here, when I come to a quick stop or I slow down immediately, it'll catch the view of this cage right here, as you can see in some of the footage right now that I'm showing to you. But so if you look down with the camera too much, you'll catch the cage. I mean, I think it's necessary, but man, I wish they could do a better job on that whole cage design. So you don't, I mean, back in the day, the Phantom 4 and the Phantom, remember the Phantom drones? If you leaned it too forward, it would catch the props in the camera. Kind of the same thing, but I mean, it's just at times you'll see it. I wouldn't consider it an issue. I definitely have to work on the camera settings. The camera settings I'm using right now, if you tilt, the horizon's tilting, but I think there's a setting you can set to stable the horizon. Also, you'll see some like warping on the edges when we take hard turns, like in this footage here in the park. Also, this footage, I think this was shot over a school. Yeah, you'll see in some of this footage that it warps and it just doesn't look right. So I know there's a way of setting the camera on here to get really awesome footage. And I gotta say, I'm already getting really incredible footage, but I just want it to be commercial grade production footage. Also, there's a little bit of stuff to connect when you first get started. You have two cables for the goggles. You have to charge a lot. So I bought this 3-port USB-C cable, but you gotta connect your goggles. You gotta connect the controller. And so I recommend, if you're flying this, is have someone to be there to assist you. And also, when you're flying with goggles, you don't know what's happening around you in that physical environment. So for safety purposes, I would also recommend having someone, a 2-person crew to fly an FPV drone, which is actually the requirements of the FAA. You have to have a spotter if you're flying, a spotter without goggles if you're flying FPV. But other than that, once you get used to it, it's a pretty quick process to connect. You just got to make sure everything's charged. You got to charge your goggles battery. You got to charge your Avata batteries for your drone, your controller. This doesn't have an extra battery, but you do have a port, USB port here that you can plug in a battery bank or whatever, you know, like a portable battery charger. But other than that, it's a pretty awesome drone. I haven't flown FPV like I was saying, and this was an experience of a lifetime. There are a lot more pros than cons on the DJI Avata. It's super stable in the wind. Like I said, when we were flying, I mean, most of the flying we've been doing has been on windy days. And the park footage that you see going down this trail and around the field, yeah, it was like, you know, 15, 18 mile an hour gusts with this sustained wind of 10 miles an hour. Well, this thing wasn't affected in the wind at all. Not at all. So I think you could easily fly it in, you know, a 15 mile an hour wind. I always question 20 mile an hour wind with any of my drones. It's super easy to fly. This controller right here, I know there's been a lot of people saying that DJI had a bulk warehouse full of them and they just wanted to get rid of them. Other people are saying it's really hard to fly with this. I disagree. This controller right here is incredible. As you can see in this footage, I'm just holding it and I lean my wrist one way or the other way, and the drone goes that way. If I point up, I go up. If I point down, I go down. The trigger controls your throttle. It is an awesome controller. You have a record button on here. You have a tilt for your camera. I mean, what else do you want? You got one-handed controller versus standard drone controller, which I love, but this thing makes for incredible flying. I think for maybe slow indoor flying, the other DJI controller 2 might be another option, which we did purchase, and it's on back order. We did get our Fly More kit, but a lot of this stuff is on back order, so if you order it now, you'll have it in a few weeks. But if you wait and you need it, you're going to be waiting, 2-3 weeks to get your order. The Fly More kit, this is a charger, comes with 2 batteries. It's okay. The problem with this is that it's still charging 1 battery at a time when you have 4 batteries on here. So it starts with number 1, it goes to number 2. When you order your Avata, typically it comes with a standard battery and a charger, which is good to keep in your case because then you can charge 2 batteries at the same time. Well, maybe you have 4 on this. This is definitely a must-have. You need batteries and you need to charge them quick. I did buy a headband. This was actually made for the DJI version 2 goggles because the strap didn't fit through here. And so I actually modified this strap. And then see here, it holds your battery, and I would like to put one more loop in here for cables, maybe on the back side. But this is a definitely must-have, so you aren't having a battery hanging off or in your pocket. Now the other option is keep your standard strap and get one of these guys right here. This is a battery holder. Let me show you here. I know I got another battery in here. So this is a goggles battery. This fits in here. And then this will go on your original strap that I have right here. It just clips on. But I still like this other strap. This other strap was like 40 bucks. This clip was like $10. So you kind of get what you pay for. Accessories. You definitely need batteries. Oh, I was gonna say, there's several other cases on the market that are from 200 to 250, even more than that are made for the DJI Avata, because this fits right in here. See that? And I can fit 4 batteries under here and my goggles there and my controllers here. There's other cases that are $250. I paid under $100 for this case. It's waterproof. It's a hard case. It's it's just fine for this setup. And it's gonna protect your investment, and you don't need to spend 250 bucks on a case. If you want that other case for 200, go get it. But this thing is preformed and awesome. It's a great case. I'm gonna talk about some of the pros. It's incredibly stable. Like I said, we were flying in very windy conditions. Super easy to fly. The one thing you do have to watch when you're using this handheld controller here is watch the little white dot. You gotta make sure that you don't run it into the ground or run it up into something. You just gotta make sure that your dot is, flying, above ground. But it's very easy. You just got to pay attention to it. And when you do a first flight, you don't need to go full throttle on it. But we did in some of these, like you see here along this wall here, we were going pretty fast. And we still had incredible control of it with this controller. We haven't received the other controller yet, but I fly a lot of drones, and I will be using that controller with this drone 90% of the time. Easy to fly indoors. Here's a little bit of footage in our studio, but really easy to fly indoors. You gotta watch your settings for light and stuff still, because you can get a little bit of graininess if you don't have a proper lighting. The size of this thing is so compact that it's easy to take anywhere. I take it in this little case right here. I can take 4 batteries, the goggles, my controller, cables, everything fits in here, and no problem. But you could definitely fit this under a seat as a carry-on on an airplane. And get some good SD cards. You need a really fast SD card, 170 megabytes at least per second, to do some good 4K shooting. You need an SD card for the drone, and you need one for the goggles. And you can see the reason why I have one in the goggles. If you want to record the footage in the goggles, you got to have a SD card in the goggles. This is the footage from the goggles right here. You can see it has our height. It shows you how many GPS signals we're connected to, but it's really cool to record the goggles footage, especially for tutorials like this. If you're doing YouTube videos and you want to show the goggles footage, what you're seeing as a pilot, and the other footage, the drone footage. The footage we've been capturing is incredible, but I've had some warping issues on the sides, and I've watched a couple other YouTube videos, and they've talked about the settings. So there are plenty of camera settings on this to adjust it for the horizon, wide, maybe a medium shot. Yeah, so you got a lot of adjustments as far as camera. The footage you can capture with this, anywhere from 1080 HD to 2K to 4K. You can capture 4K footage on this, like we're capturing here at 60 frames per second. You can also capture 100 frames per second if you're recording just 1080 HD. Hey, so I'm going to just talk about some of the footage we captured. You'll see in this shot, we flew this was just around my neighborhood, and we flew down through my neighbor's yards between a house, and that was my first flight. That was the first time I took this drone out. But yeah, the footage was incredible. And then we took it down to this park setting. I wanted to see how low I could fly to the ground, like through the grass. It's just incredible how this thing just plows through. It does not affect it. What a fun drone. You can see in this shot right here, I'm coming in from high altitude, about 100 feet, down onto a street. It's a one-way street, and through a canopy of trees, and with no problems. I haven't flown an FPV drone. This is the first one I've owned, and we flew down through that canopy of trees, through the park, and it was super easy to fly. I highly recommend DJI when it comes to your first drone. All your DJI drones have GPS stability. They're easy to fly. You can get DJI Refresh, which is a warranty program. I have a 2-year program on this. It covers flyaways, it covers accidental damage. I have links below for the DJI Refresh package, the Fly More kit, the DJI Avata, the strap that I purchased. I should make a video on how I fixed that strap to make it function for the new version of the smaller goggles. So I have 2 case links below. I have the expensive one and I have this one. I have to say the flying experience from this little drone has been so much fun, but I would highly recommend this little drone to a beginner or advanced pilot that wants to get into FPVs. Really fun. You know, there's a couple little issues that I have, but I know DJI, they'll fix it on the DJI Avata too. Hey, if you like this video, hit subscribe below and give me a thumbs up. Hey, thanks for watching.